Hi friends, it's Cheryl from the Lifestyle Digs, and today is Potty Talk on the Camino de Santiago, Part 2. In Part 1, I talked about the washroom facilities, or lack thereof, while you're actually walking along the Camino de Santiago, and today I'll be talking about the washroom facilities inside the albergues. These are the hostels with the bunk beds that the pilgrims sleep in at night. Now, every albergue is different, and certainly I have not been in all the albergues, but the experience is pretty much the same. Some albergues, these are the ones that I like, they have separate women's washroom facilities and men washroom facilities. So these can vary. It might just be one room with a toilet and a shower, and it might be a room where you go inside and there'll be two or three toilets and showers. And then there are the communal facilities. And again, this is open for both men and women. It just might be one room, or it might be a larger room with several stalls with toilets and showers. So yes, you are in there in the big room, and it'll have sinks, and there'll be men in there with you. And but all the stalls with the toilets and the showers, they all have privacy walls, and the toilets certainly have a door. The showers vary. They might have an actual door that you can lock, or it just might be a shower curtain that you pull across. I have never seen or heard of any shower facilities where it's just one big room with a whole bunch of shower heads and everyone is in there showering with no privacy curtains in between them. So that I'm not saying it does not exist. It's just that I've never heard of it, I've never seen it, and I've never heard anybody else discuss, because certainly something like that would get around the Camino, like avoid that albergue, or, it's just one open shower facility for men and women, and everybody's naked in there together. But that doesn't happen in Spain, especially with the older women. But in Spain, they are quite modest about showing too much skin. So this is why you will find privacy curtains or doors on all the shower facilities. But let's get back to the albergues that have men's washrooms and women's washrooms. So even though it is very well marked, and it's usually some sort of a drawing with a man on it or a drawing with a woman on it, because there's a lot of pilgrims that speak different languages. But most of us, even though we might not understand Spanish, if the sign said hombres and mujeres, you might not understand that, men and women, but you can probably understand a drawing. So that's how most of the facilities are marked. Now, even though they're marked quite well with these little figures showing either a man or a woman, men don't seem to care. They just go inside the women's facilities anyway. And I first encountered this at the albergue, the big albergue in Roncesvalles, which is either the first night on the pilgrimage, if you're doing the Camino de Santiago, the Camino Frances, or it might be the second night, depends if you took an extra night in Orison or 2 nights in Saint Jean Pied de Port. But anyway, this is a huge building, several floors, and I'm not sure how many beds are in there. There's around 300 bunk beds. So the first time this happened to me, I go into the women's, and this would be toilets. Would be a few toilets and a few shower stalls. So I come in, and the first thing I see at the counter, the sink, mirror, there's a man with glasses and a beard. He's grooming himself, and I duck out real fast, and I look at the sign at the doorway again, and it's a picture of a woman. So I come back in, and I say to him, "Hey, you're in the women's washroom." He ignores me. So I say it again in Spanish and then in French, and he just ignores me. Turns out he's like some arrogant prick from New Zealand, so it's probably a good guess that he could speak at least one of the languages that I was talking to him in, but because he was an arrogant prick, he just ignored me. So that was the first encounter. The second one came, I had just finished showering and getting dressed, so I was still in the washroom area near the showers, and there was another older woman in there, and actually I'd met her the day before in Saint Jean Pied de Port. Met her and her son. They were from Switzerland. He spoke fairly good English, and his mother spoke a little English but was not fluent. Anyway, a man comes in, walks right up to us, and talks to her, addresses her in another language I did not understand, but I think it was Italian. Could have been Portuguese, but I think it was Italian. And she's looking at me like, what's this guy doing in here? And so I say to him in English, hey man, you're in the ladies' washroom. And he just stares at me. So then I try it in Spanish, and then I try it in French. And he just keeps staring at me. And then he finally says, in English, I'm in the women's washroom? And I go, yes. And he says, well, where's the men's? And I says, on the other side, just go back out the door and go around down the hall and into the other one. So he leaves. And it was kind of funny. I could hear him in the other washroom, the men's washroom. He found his way, and he was talking to another man. And he says, you won't believe it, I just went into the women's washroom. And it happened one more time later that night when I was in brushing my teeth. A man walks in, I turned over to him, and I says, you're in the women's washroom, and he understood English, and he turned around and went out again. So I did find this quite a few times. Maybe I wasn't inside the women's washroom, but I would see a man just go in there. And the last time I saw it, I was in the last albergue. I was actually in Santiago de Compostela, and I was, it was the albergue, it was called like mile zero or something like that, kilometer zero. And I was in there at the sink. So and there was another woman from Mexico beside me. We were brushing our teeth or hair or whatever. And a man walks in and she turns around and yells at him, "Arriba!" The men's washroom facilities were on the floor, one floor above, but I don't know what it is about men who just think that it's okay to walk into the women's washrooms. The other thing that you'll find in Spain is they have high electricity prices, apparently. I had to look this up, but apparently Denmark has the highest electricity prices in the world. But I guess Spain must be up there too, because when you walk into the washrooms, the lights are probably out, but they're motion-activated lights. Just about every washroom facility I went to in Albergues in the Camino, they were motion-activated lights. So I'd walk in, be okay. Sometimes the lights would go out and just sort of move around again. I never had the lights go out when I was sitting on the toilet, but I heard from another woman who did, and then you got to wave your arms around and hope that the lights will go back on again. So these lights are motion sensors, and apparently they're also on some sort of a quick timer. And that this is quite common. You will find this in other common areas in the albergues as well. Lights are either on timers or they're on motion sensors. So there was a couple of washroom facilities on albergues that were really nice. One was in a small town, a small village called, I think it was called El Acebo, and it was the albergue of the pilgrims. It was something, a pretty simple title, and it was actually a spa as well. Just it's almost the last albergue when you're walking out of the village, and very nice rooms, and the bathrooms were amazing. There was huge washrooms. There was several sinks. There were several toilets, and there were several shower stalls, and they were very roomy shower stalls. So that's the other thing with a lot of these shower stalls and these albergues, they're actually quite small. You might even come in and it's just a shower. So you don't even have a dry place to keep your clothes. So remember to bring a dry bag with you into the shower. That's where you want to keep your valuables, like your watch, your money, your passport, whatever you have. Plus keep your clothes dry while you are inside the shower. And there was also one other Camino, and I don't remember the name, but let me see if I can pick it up here real fast. It was towards the end of the Camino. It was called Albergue Valin Lama, and it was in a town called Palas de Rey, and it was very nice. It was a fairly new albergue. It was only about 2 or 3 years old. So again, separate women and men's facilities. And you come in, there was several sinks, about 4 sinks, and there was 4 or 5 toilets and probably about the same amount of showers. And there was also a bench across from the shower. So it was very comfortable and roomy, and it was one of the nicer ones. I also have the name of that other albergue in El Acebo, It was called Albergue Casa del Peregrino, which means the house of the house of the pilgrim is a loose translation into Spanish. So I did prefer to have separate women's facilities, but there was certainly about half the albergues I stayed in, it was communal. You'd come in and there would just be several sinks, there would be several toilets and several showers. So you're going to have privacy, doors or curtains. And again, by the end of the day, you're just so tired. You just sort of reach a point where you just don't care that there's men in the women's wash, that men are sharing the same washroom facilities. So I hope that helps a little bit and gives you a better understanding of what to expect when you're inside the albergues. It could go either way. You might be lucky enough to get men's and women's, and even when there's men's and women's, there still might be one extra overflow, I guess you would call it, washrooms that you could get into if all the other toilets are busy. And there was one albergue I stayed at in Estella, and it, in Puente La Reina. And it was a hallway. You went down the hallway, and then off to the side were all the toilets and all the showers. So bang, 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 bang. And again, sometimes you're waiting in line. It's just, Anyway, I hope this helps a bit for pilgrims that are just getting started on what to expect once you get to the albergues on the Camino de Santiago. And women, expect men to walk inside your facilities, even though the door is probably quite clearly marked that it's women. So bye for now. This is Cheryl from Lifestyle Digs. Thank you for watching.